Thank you. It's true to say you're the best crowd I've had all night. Yeah. You're doing good out there. So I'm going to play a little instrumental here. I taught you some of that, right? Okay. This is Mystery Train, and I'm just going to kind of do an instrumental version of it, and just kind of give you like a Scotty Moore-ish picking style. I can't play like Scotty, so I just do what I can, you know. And Scotty couldn't play like Chet, so he did what he could. It just kind of, you know, goes down the generations. So here we go. Remember Ran out of steam. All right. Thank you. Mystery Train. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Hey, Paul, this would be a good time to maybe open up for questions. What do you think?
Anybody has any questions? I have a microphone if you need it, or you can just shout it out. Do you have any questions for Brad? About anything, Memphis, music, when did you start playing guitar?
Where did you get your inspiration?
I got my inspiration from Elvis. I really did. I'm 40 years old. I was 5 months old when he died, so skipped a whole generation. But my mom and dad were big Elvis fans. I grew up with the Elvis records and Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee, and that's the short version of the story. But yeah, I saw what he was doing when I watched old videos. And matter of fact, I can never make anything a short version, but my big hero before Elvis was Boxcar Willie. You guys remember him? Okay, well, I figured he didn't. So, but he was like the singing hobo, and he would do like all the Hank Williams stuff and everything. And when my parents would play a tape, tapes? You don't remember tapes. Of Elvis doing Jailhouse Rock or Teddy Bear, I couldn't understand the words. I'm like, what is this? I don't like this, you know? And as I got older, something sparked in me, and I really liked it. And I'd see him on the old videos or whatever. Then I wanted to play guitar, because he had one. And then I had a neighbor who played guitar. He taught me a couple chords. And I was really good at a C chord. Really good at it. So good that it was the only thing I knew. So I'd play to an Elvis tape, and whatever key it was in, I was playing along in C. You know? But if anything, it helped me get my rhythm pattern and everything. I finally figured out there's more than one chord. There's three. But anyways, so yeah, that's my inspiration was Elvis Presley, as a matter of fact, yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
I'm from Tacoma, Washington originally, so I went to Curtis High School. Yeah, so I'll tell that story real quick. Growing up in the Northwest, basically I was there till I was 20, and I was offered a house gig with a band of mine at the time called the Dempseys, a rockabilly trio that was not unlike the Stray Cats, you know, the stand-up bass, the whole thing. And We were moved down there by Elvis Presley Enterprises. We were kids, 20 years old, had nothing to lose. We were going to stay a year and leave, and we almost left. But then we realized, well, we're doing this for a living. This is great. So we had a house gig, and then we started playing a lot of private parties, and then we got on the business side of it and became incorporated, and, we made a business out of music, the music business, right? And you can actually, places like Memphis, you can make a living doing it, which is wonderful, So we stayed, and the Dempsey Band, we did a lot. We traveled the world. We opened up for the Stray Cats in Spain in 2004, some of our heroes, and played with some of the Elvis bandmates, and we did a lot, We were in the movie Walk the Line. We played Elvis's band in that, and that was super. But we disbanded. Some great things have to come to an end. We're all great friends, but we started when we were 15. We were in Tacoma. We were these teenagers playing rockabilly music. We were all good friends, but that was part of the problem. We were too close, And hey, I'm not comparing us to the Beatles, but I'm saying the Beatles broke up. Hey, and they were close, right? I mean, things just happen. No matter how much success you have, sometimes you just want to do other things. So the coolest thing that ever happened to the Dempseys on Beale Street, where I play nightly, a very historic street, they have this music note, brass note walk of fame. Jerry Lee Lewis has a note. Johnny Cash has a note. Justin Timberlake, who's from Memphis, as a matter of fact, he's got it. Oh, yeah. Oh, are you from there? Are you really? Oh, that's awesome. Well, okay, he cleared it up. He's actually from Millington, north of Memphis, but yeah. So cool, man. You've been in Jersey a long time? Oh wait, did I meet you at the bar the other night? I did. Okay, good to see you. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you were in an outfit. Yeah. Wait, what were you again? I can't remember. Roddy Piper. Okay. Now we know. Okay. We go way back. We're gonna talk later. What time does your show start? Yeah. So awesome, man. Cool. Millington. So they honored the Dempseys with a brass note on Beale Street. And that's a pretty big deal, And really, when we got that, the ongoing joke in town is like, don't repeat this if you're recording it. You either got to die or break up to get a note. Well, we broke up, But the powers that be, they lobbied and they voted for it, and we got a call. We really didn't think it was real, and it actually was. But one of the beauties about that brass note story is the Dempseys. Has anyone seen the movie Spinal Tap? Okay, so it's like the rock and roll band where everything goes wrong. That happened to us a lot, on the road or whatever. And this was perfect. We get the brass note, right? But it's not engraved yet because the engraver passed away. So they had to find another engraver. So it was typical Dempsey. We had the note, but it had to be engraved, so it took another 6 months. But anyways, it's there in front of Blue City Cafe. If you ever go down there, there it is, So that's my note story.
What's your favorite Beale Street venue?
My favorite to play or just to be at? To be at? That's a good question. I'm gonna have to say, probably, I like the Jerry Lee Lewis Cafe, and they're fairly new. They're the old, it's got a French Quarter theme, but Pat O'Brien's. There you go, exactly. So that's the Jerry Lee Lewis Cafe. It's just neat because it's like an old-timey, old-school honky tonk. Like if you walked into the 50s, that's what you'd see. You'd walk in and see a band in the back, and Blue City Cafe is wonderful. Alfred's BB King Club is right there. They have one there, obviously. So yeah, probably the Jerry Lee Lewis Club. I like that place a lot. It's just got a good old vibe. Plus, they have a lot of his outfits hanging up in there. It's pretty cool.
Can you give us some perspective on Memphis versus Nashville back in the 50s?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is good. Well, there's perspective now too, but night and day when it comes to music, man, it is night and day. And back then, see, in Memphis, you had the blues, you had rhythm and blues. This rockabilly thing was starting. Country, you had some gospel coming to town. In Nashville, you had the hillbilly bluegrass music coming from Kentucky, down to Tennessee, and the Grand Ole Opry was huge. And whoever you were, even Elvis tried out for the Grand Ole Opry. And people were turning in the radio stations to listen to the Opry at night, So it was flat out country music up there and all this eclectic music in the South. It was just different. I guess the way people were raised, and with the Civil War in the old days in the 1800s in Memphis, and the slavery and then the cotton fields, that all spawned blues music and this and that, and everything just kind of merged together. So yeah, there's a big difference, Elvis went up in '54 to try out for the Opry, and he was nervous, but back then, drums were not allowed on the Opry. Now, he didn't have drums yet, but it was a big deal, no drums, it was really frowned upon. So he auditioned, and he basically got not laughed off the stage, but he had these guys with their cigars out there, and he said, "Kid, you need to go back to driving a truck. You're no good." Of course, it hurt his feelings, and the rest is history, right? So he did his thing. So yeah, it was different back then, absolutely.
Can you explain the connection between Memphis and Chicago, as those guys at Muddy and all those guys kind of went up to Chicago? What made them go north to Chicago versus staying in Memphis?
Well, I think, that's interesting. I think a lot of it had to do with the record business, the recording business, and studios, Buddy Guy's still up there, yes. I think he's up there in Chicago. You had Chess Records up there. That was a big one. And they even put out a lot of Chuck Berry records, I think a lot of it was labeled, like people would come to Memphis to record for Sun, and a lot of blues after the rock and roll thing happened. A lot of blues wasn't being recorded at Sun, so up in Chicago. Matter of fact, one of the very historic, you guys know what a Quonset hut is? Kind of the tin round hut. We have 3 of those in Memphis on Chelsea Avenue. What those was it was called like American Plastics, and they would cut records. Like, that's where the Sun records were cut. That's where some of the Chess records were cut. Some of the Stax stuff. We'll talk about Stax, too. And you drive by it, there it is. I mean, you drive by these abandoned Quonset huts with the historic sign and a for lease sign right there, and thinking about all this great music we listened to was literally cut there and then shipped out in a box somewhere. Memphis has it all, man. So, anything else?
How does Roy Orbison fit into the equation?
Oh, one of my favorites. This is great. Roy Orbison. This guy was just inducted 2 days ago into the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. They have a big ceremony. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top was there to present it. And Roy Orbison came from Wink, Texas. Now, the thing with the music business, and even today, you got to kind of be a triple threat. You have the looks, you can dance, you can sing, you got to have it all. These famous folks, you know what I'm saying? So there was a thing. It's marketing, Roy Orbison wasn't the best looking cat out there. He just wasn't, It wasn't the late. I mean, look at Elvis. He had Elvis. And Carl didn't even think Carl didn't think himself. Carl Perkins was very attractive. He's fine, but, he thought, well, you already got Elvis. We're all in for it, Roy Orbison had a really kind of quiet voice. He was really timid, and as powerful as he sang, it wasn't that loud when he would do it, but it was just the way it came out. It was wonderful. Elvis loved him. Roy inspired Elvis to sing out. Like when Elvis would do something falsetto, Roy would come out and do it in full voice. That's how Elvis started to do that in the early 60s, when he really developed his singing style, some of the operatic stuff. So he comes to Sun Records, and he's doing stuff like Ooby Dooby, and which is a weird song. It's a song called Ooby Dooby. Don't ask me what it means. I don't know. So could you imagine him writing it, though? Ooby Dooby, Ooby Dooby. Ooby dooby, ooby dooby, ooby wah, ooh wah, ooh wah. Those are the words, so it was the 50s, I don't know. So Roy Orbison is at Sun, and Sam Phillips, who ran the studio, used to get so upset. He's like, Roy, you're singing rock and roll, man. You got to get in that mic. You sing so quiet. I mean, here's how Roy would sing Ooby Dooby. Ooby Dooby. Hey, baby, jump off here when you do the Ooby Dooby. Just got to be near Ooby Dooby, Ooby Dooby, Ooby Dooby, Ooby Dooby, Ooby Dooby. Like he was shy, But that worked in his favor because he was saving his voice. He became the balladeer of the 1960s, did he not? And a great songwriter. Got a start in Memphis, Tennessee, from Wink, Texas. Ended up in Nashville. A lot of these guys ended up in Nashville. Johnny Cash ended up in Nashville on Columbia Records. It was like the next logical step, So does that answer your question? Okay, cool. We want to hear a Roy Orbison song? Okay, let's do one. I'd like to do, and in honor of Tom Petty, let's do this, because Tom Petty and Roy Orbison, Tom Petty co-wrote this one. And the Traveling Wilburys, but this was Roy's solo, his last album called You Got It, okay? So let's do this real quick. And if you guys know the words, sing along. Every time I look into your loving eyes, I see love and money just can't buy. One look from you, I drift away. I pray that you are here to stay. Anything you want, you got it. Anything you need, anything at all, you got it, baby. understand. Everything about you tells me I'm your man. I live my life to be with you. No one can do the things you do. Anything you want, you got it. Anything you need, you got it. Anything at all, you got it, baby. Anything you need, anything you want, anything at all. I'm glad to give my love to you. No one can do the things I do. Anything you want, anything you need, anything at all, baby. One more, everybody. Anything you want, anything you need, anything at all, baby. Anything at all, baby. You got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's a fun one. It's high. It gets up there, but he was good at that. He was fun. They used to call him Old Leather Lungs. Leather Lungs. So let's talk about. We talked about all these great artists. We're sticking the mid '50s right now. This genre. Let's talk about the Rock and Roll Trio from Memphis, Tennessee. Anyone out there know who I'm talking about? Hey, is that Brian? Yeah, good to see you, man. Right on. Cool. One of my students. This is cool. Wow. Johnny Burnett. And what was Johnny Burnett all about? Did he scream?
Oh, he was a howler.
Yeah, he was. And do you remember why he howled?
I think his cigarette was.
There you go. So this is a great story. I don't smoke, okay? But back in the 50s when I knew everyone did, Paul Burleson, this great guitar player, he's no longer with us, but he would put his lit cigarette, just like Eddie Van Halen, before Eddie Van Halen, right here, okay? And what happened was Johnny Burnett, the lead singer, when he backed up, and his arm hit the lit cigarette, and he would go, ow! And it hurt, you know? But then it became such a thing, it's like on all the records. He'll just do it. He's not constantly getting burned by a cig. It was just a bit that kind of happened. So that'll be on the quiz. That's a good one. So Johnny Burnett, actually, he was about the same age as Elvis, and he grew up, He grew up in a place called Lauderdale Courts. It was a government housing project in Memphis built in about 1936. One of the first government housing projects in the U.S., as a matter of fact. So Johnny Burnett lived there, Elvis lived there around the same time, and legend has it that Elvis and Johnny used to kind of play guitar together. So they're like 13, 14 years old, learning, the guitar, learning, they're dating girls, they're getting their hair right, they're coming of age. This is how Elvis grew up. So Johnny ends up kind of becoming a star around the time that Elvis did. But Johnny didn't record his son. They went to Nashville, to Bradley's Barn. They did something a little different. So it was Johnny Burnett on vocals, his brother Dorsey Burnett on stand-up bass, and Paul Burleson on guitar, just like Scotty Moore, Bill Black, and Elvis, right? So, and they were on this thing called Ted Mack's Amateur Hour and things like that, in New York, back in the day. So Johnny Burnett had these great songs, but they would take some of the blues songs and do them their way, make them a little rougher, a little edgier, right? And y'all have probably heard of Led Zeppelin, right? And Aerosmith? You've heard of them, okay. So if you heard of the song Train Kept a Rollin', and y'all probably think, oh yeah, that's an Aerosmith song, right? You're like, oh yeah, that's yeah. Well, Johnny Burnett really was one of the first cats to take what was like an older blues song and adapt it and do it his way. So there's a very famous way of playing guitar on this song. Again, I spoke about how I can't play like Chet or whoever, so I do it my way. Same with Scotty Moore. Paul Burleson, who played for the Rock and Roll Trio, he couldn't play like Chet and these guys either, so he did something different. Now, let me show you a little picking style that I did today. So this right here. Remember that? That's how Scotty Moore would do something, okay? Now that's using a lot of fingers. See that? I got an upstroke on two of them, and it's hard to talk and do it at the same time. But it takes a lot of coordination. Well, Paul, he wasn't going to do that. What does he do? He does this octave thing. He goes. I mean, it's what it was, and it sounds kind of mean, like, And I think Aerosmith was like. Think about Aerosmith as getting their inspiration from these Rockabilly cats. That's pretty cool, huh? So let's do the Train Kept Rolling. What do you say? All right, from the 5. I caught a train, I met a dame. She was a hipster, she was a real gone, and she was pretty from New York City. And she trucked all down on that plane with a heave and a hoe. And a hoe, I just couldn't let you go. There it is. I said the train kept it rolling all night long. All night long. The train kept it rolling all night long. The train kept it rolling all night long. With the heave and a hoe, I just couldn't let you go. All right. Thank you. Train kept rolling. Old song from the mid-50s. So Johnny Burnett, this guy who lived in the same project as Elvis did, he, in the late 50s, he and his brother Dorsey Burnett, who were in the Rock and Roll Trio, they move out west to California. What do? They become hit songwriters for a guy named Ricky Nelson. Remember Ricky Nelson? So these Memphis cats go to Hollywood and write hits like Waiting in School, It's Late, and they make a lot of coinage on these Ricky Nelson songs. Later in 1960, Johnny Burnett had a song. I'll do a little bit of it for you. It went like this. So Johnny Burnett went from being a rockabilly cat to a songwriter to a teen sensation. With this song. Ooh, you come, dream, peaches and cream, lips like strawberry wine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. Oh, ribbons and curls, what a girl, eyes that sparkle and shine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. So that was Johnny Burnett. Isn't that amazing? So all these cool stuff that's so universal. It all starts in Memphis. All roads lead to Memphis and end up somewhere else, but So, and of course, Ringo Starr had a huge hit on that in the 70s. So that goes to show you the Beatles' influence and all that on all this great music. So I want to talk about Stax Records a little bit. Y'all heard of Stax? Stax Records. All right. So Jim Stewart owned the joint, and actually it was a recording company started in about 1957. Jim Stewart and Estelle Axton, they were brother and sister. The name Stax comes from ST from Stewart and AX from Axton. Stax. There you go. That's why they called it Stax. So next door was a record shop that they would kind of run to kind of help pay for people coming in that had recording sessions and things like that, So what he was doing, Jim Stewart was a country fiddle player. He was recording rhythm and blues and some jazz. This was a totally different studio on the other side of town of where Sun was, okay? So Macklemore Avenue, and it's now the Stax Museum. What happened was they tore it down, but they rebuilt it to look exactly as it did inside and out, and next door to it is the Stax Music Academy for gifted children, which is wonderful, making these, showing these kids how to play, so it's pretty cool. They even have a replica of the studio in there, and they have seminars and things like this, that they do there. So what's interesting about this is that there was a different kind of music. Now again, with the segregation, this was bringing white and black together, which was wonderful through music, because it didn't matter. I mean, whatever was going on, there was no boundaries in these studios, you know. And so you had white and black making great music. Booker T and the MGs. Who's heard of those cats? Okay. Memphis boys. That's what they. There you go. So their most famous song is probably Green Onions, right? Which is just a blues organ song. And how did that come by? Well, they were just kind of checking the levels and messing around. It's really simple, you know. That's it. They're just kind of, okay, give me some kick drum, you know. Turn down, turn up, whatever. So they're just kind of doing this. Well, they roll tape. It becomes a number one hit. I mean, I love that one. That's kind of like That's All Right Mama, whatever, you know. And they also had Time Is Tight that started like this. Remember that? An organ song. They don't whistle, but I'm trying to give you the gist of it. So you had people like Booker T and the MGs. You had this guy that was driving a truck, or excuse me, a tour bus for a gospel group from Georgia. And this guy's driving this bus, and he stops off at Stax, and this certain gospel group, they were called the Georgia Pine Toppers, I believe. They were going to record at Stax. Well, they get done. This session doesn't go all that well. It was just, they paid for it or whatever, but Jim Stewart was tired, you know, the owner, and he was locking up. Remember, there was a guy driving this bus named Otis Redding, okay? And Otis wasn't in the band. He was just the bus driver, you know? So he goes in to wash up or whatever, and as that band, the Georgia Pine Toppers, is getting back on the bus, Otis, you know, has the notion to go talk to Jim Stewart and say, hey, can I sing a little bit for you? I've got a song. He said, okay, you got 2 minutes, you know, because he was tired, but he was being nice. So I haven't done this in a while. Let me see if I can think of it. So Otis wrote this song, and he goes in there a cappella, and he goes, these arms of mine, the lonely and blue songs of mine, the yearning and wanting you. And if you let me hold you, how grateful I will be. Yeah. So, thank you. There's more to it, but you know, you get the gist, you know. These arms of mine, the lonely and blue songs of mine, the yearning and wanting you. And if you let me hold you, how grateful